If you stopped anyone on the street and asked them who guards Mexico's goal, they'd answer without thinking twice. Ochoa, the guy with the curly hair and the headband. But if you ask that same person what club Ochoa plays for, they'd pause and say, honestly, I have no idea. This man is the living definition of the word enigma. He wakes up from a coma every 4 years to lock down the goal with an iron fist against the world's strongest national teams, and then quietly disappears. How can a goalkeeper be an icon on the cover of FIFA, be the first Mexican ever nominated for the Ballon d'Or, and yet be the same goalkeeper who conceded 82 goals in a single season in Spain, the worst record in the history of La Liga, while no European giant was ever willing to spend a single euro on him? His professional career outside Mexico was essentially a continuous series of relegation battles with most clubs he played for. The secret here isn't just bad luck or a failed agent. There's a strange gap, a player who walks a tightrope, leaving behind a career full of contradictions and coincidences so bizarre that if you put him in a movie script, you'd say the director was exaggerating. And in this edition of World Cup Stories, we're getting to know the goalkeeper who became a fixture of the tournament throughout its history. Grab your food and a perfect cup of tea. In 2014, the whole world was focused on Brazil, the host nation, playing on home soil in front of their own fans. All eyes and expectations were on the Samba Stars and the goal fest they were expected to deliver. But suddenly, and without warning, social media flipped. English newspapers and major sports sites abandoned the entire tournament and zeroed in on a single photo spreading at lightning speed. A photo of Ochoa's right hand, appearing to show 6 fingers.
The story blew up to the point where some people took it seriously, not as a meme or a joke. Fans began demanding FIFA open an official investigation and conduct a medical examination on him. The truth, which wasn't exactly a surprise, was that the photo was photoshopped, created by a disgruntled Brazilian fan furious at what he'd witnessed in the Brazil versus Mexico match. That fan, like Neymar, and millions watching in stadiums and on screens, had seen Neymar plant a perfect header that would naturally have gone in. Even Neymar had already started running to celebrate, when Ochoa appeared, stretched out his hand, and cleared the ball before it crossed the line. To understand how difficult that save was, goal line technology, which was newly implemented at the time, confirmed the ball was just 3 centimeters from fully crossing the line. That save in particular brought back memories for Brazilians. It reminded them of Gordon Banks' save of the century against Pelé in the 1970 World Cup. After that moment, the world treated Ochoa like Superman. The FIFA cover and the Ballon d'Or nomination. The aura around him wasn't born in 2014 by coincidence. Going back to 2008 and 2009, EA Sports decided to put Ochoa on the cover of FIFA in North America, alongside none other than the Brazilian wizard Ronaldinho himself. That might seem normal, a star on a game cover, but the twist here is that at that point, Ochoa hadn't played a single minute in Europe. He was still playing in the Mexican League with Club America, having won Best Goalkeeper in the league 2 seasons in a row. His fame and name alone were enough to sell millions of copies of the game and become the face of an entire generation. Logically, a goalkeeper of that caliber should have gone to Europe and taken it by storm, playing for Real Madrid or Bayern Munich, being an impenetrable wall. Sure, that sounds right. But let's fast forward to the 2016-17 season in La Liga.
82 goals, the worst record in Spanish football history. Ochoa was the goalkeeper for Granada that season. He broke a historic record in La Liga, but it was a negative one. He conceded 82 goals in a single season, the worst record for any goalkeeper in the entire history of Spanish football since the league was founded. Every match was a goal fest. Teams were shooting on him like it was a training session. But before you judge him and call him a failed goalkeeper or a bubble that Neymar created, if you open any stats website, like Opta, for that same season, you'd find a second number even stranger. That same goalkeeper who let in 82 goals made 162 saves in the same season, the highest save count for any goalkeeper across all 5 major European leagues. He was making more saves than Neuer, De Gea, and Courtois at their peak. But because of the defensive line in front of him, you could have the game of your life, make 7 or 8 impossible saves,
and still lose 3 or 4. Granada wasn't just a bad season or a forgettable year, it was part of a pattern, a curse that followed him like his shadow. Ochoa holds a rare negative record. He was relegated to the second division with 3 different clubs in 3 different major leagues. Went to France with Ajaccio, relegated. Went to Spain with Granada, 82 goals conceded, relegated. Leader ended his European career at Salernitana in Italy, relegated. Every time I enter this neighborhood, the lights go out. I don't know why. It's fate, son. His European career, viewed from the outside, looks like a continuous chain of failure and relegation. So how does the goalkeeper who gets relegated with clubs and becomes a burden on leagues transform the moment he puts on the Mexico shirt? The beginning. A striker who became a goalkeeper by accident. To understand this paradox, we need to go all the way back to the beginning, the roots that shaped Ochoa's mentality and playing style. You need to know that Ochoa wasn't originally a goalkeeper. He played as a striker at a small academy in Mexico. As a regular kid, his only dream was to score goals and celebrate. One day, the team's regular goalkeeper got injured, and there was no backup. The coach asked him, "Have you ever tried playing in goal before?" He said, "No, coach." The coach replied, "And then your chance has come."
From that moment on, Ochoa never left the goal. This story, it explains why Ochoa is a goalkeeper who plays on pure instinct. He was never trained in European academies on how to read the game, how to play as a libero with his feet, or how to come out and command crosses. He was simply a kid with extremely fast reflexes who grew up relying on his natural instincts to make impossible saves. Time passed, and the kid grew up, joining Club America. In 2004, the club was coached by one of the legends of Dutch management, Leo Benhacker. The first-choice goalkeeper at the time was a Mexican legend named Adolfo, who got seriously injured. Instead of relying on a backup, Benhacker took a risk and threw an 18-year-old into the fire, telling him to go guard the biggest club in the country. He put in a performance so impressive that when the regular goalkeeper recovered from injury, he found his spot gone and retired shortly after. Ochoa became the club's star, and things reached their peak at the 2007 Copa America in Venezuela. Mexico faced Brazil, and that match was effectively Ochoa's official introduction to the outside world. Brazil attacked fiercely. Ochoa stood like a solid wall, making save after save, finishing with a clean sheet. Mexico won 2-0 and reached 3rd place. That performance didn't go unnoticed. European scouts began genuinely paying attention, to the extent that France Football magazine, when announcing the 30-man Ballon d'Or shortlist for 2007, included Ochoa's name alongside legends like Kaká, Messi, and Cristiano Ronaldo. Imagine a 22-year-old goalkeeper playing in the Mexican domestic league, not yet having played in Europe, listed in the Ballon d'Or nominees as the first Mexican in history to earn that honor. At that moment, all expectations and logic pointed to Ochoa being at a major European club within months, becoming the wall that would rival Buffon and Casillas. But as we established, there's no trace of logic in this man's career. The moment he should have touched the sky was the same moment fate was preparing its worst possible scenario for him. That scenario wasn't a cruciate ligament injury or a sudden drop in form. It was a mixture of bureaucracy and bad luck. European football has a frustrating rule. Every club has a limited number of non-EU spots, so any big club thinks a million times before burning a foreign slot on a goalkeeper. Those spots usually go to attacking players. Ochoa didn't have a European passport, and that was the first administrative bullet to hit his career. Scouts at big clubs were convinced by him, but the management would say, why bring a foreign goalkeeper when Europe is full of talented ones? His talent was too great to be completely ignored, though. Offers kept coming and going until 2011, when Paris Saint-Germain, then building their project and collecting stars, decided to take the risk and sign the young Mexican goalkeeper. This was a golden ticket for Ochoa to enter the city of light through the grand door. The press was talking, contracts were nearly signed, and Ochoa was packing his bags to fly to Paris. But at the exact same moment,
Ochoa was in the Mexican national team camp for the Gold Cup. One night, the players had a regular dinner that included meat. The next day, FIFA conducted routine doping tests on the Mexican squad, and the results showed that Ochoa and 4 other players tested positive for a banned performance-enhancing substance. The Mexican Football Federation immediately suspended him and excluded him from the tournament. He faced the threat of a 2-year ban. Naturally, PSG's management didn't take a second to think. They withdrew their offer immediately and went and bought Italian goalkeeper Salvatore Sirigu, closing that door forever. The dark comedy of this story? After investigations lasting about 2 months, FIFA discovered that Ochoa and the other players were completely innocent. What happened was they had eaten contaminated meat at the camp, meat injected with a substance normally used for fattening livestock. His dream of Paris and the Champions League vanished because of a contaminated shawarma sandwich. After this, with the transfer window closed and every major European club having distanced itself, on top of the ongoing passport issue, only one offer came from an obscure, newly promoted club in the French League on an isolated island, playing in a stadium holding just 8,000 fans. Ajaccio. August 2013. Ajaccio, racing toward relegation, traveled to play PSG at the Parc des Princes. Paris at the time had Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Cavani up front. The match began and Paris started hammering Ajaccio. PSG players fired 39 shots, 39 balls heading toward goal, including close-range efforts and rocket shots. But on that day, Ochoa decided to restore his dignity. He made 14 saves, stopping balls that left Ibrahimovic himself standing in disbelief, reportedly cursing in Swedish as he walked off the pitch. The match ended 1-1. The next day, the entire French press had eyes only for the Mexican who had locked Paris down. Writing in bold, Ochoa closed Paris. He proved to everyone he was a world-class goalkeeper. But the question remained, if he's that good, why didn't big clubs come back for him?
Here's where we need to analyze Ochoa technically, because behind those miraculous saves, there were weaknesses that made any serious manager afraid to hand him the goalkeeping duties for a title-challenging club. First, Ochoa stands at around 185 centimeters, which surprisingly is considered relatively short for a goalkeeper at the highest level. This caused him difficulty coming off his line for crosses and corners. He's a classic goalkeeper who likes to stay glued to his line, not one who dominates his penalty area or comes out to punch balls in crowded boxes. Second, and more critically, modern European football evolved to demand goalkeepers who act as the first playmaker, a sweeper keeper like Manuel Neuer or David De Gea. Ochoa is, frankly, mediocre with the ball at his feet. If pressed by a striker, he panics, and his long passes lack accuracy. Since major European clubs typically play with a high defensive line, defenders positioned near the halfway line, they need an alert goalkeeper who can cover the vast space behind them. That's why his only notable European success came outside the top 5 leagues, specifically at Standard Liège in Belgium, where he won the cup. The intensity and style of play there was calmer and better suited to his abilities. Why he transforms for Mexico? The answer is tactics. Someone might ask, if he has all these flaws, why does he become unstoppable at the World Cup? The answer comes down to one word: tactics. The Mexican national team at a major tournament like the World Cup knows its limitations well, so it plays with a deep defensive line. The whole team drops back, defends, closes spaces, and plays on the counter. No high press, no asking Ochoa to build attacks or cover behind defenders. And this is precisely where Ochoa's greatest attribute shines: lightning-fast reflexes, the instinct of that kid who became a goalkeeper by accident. 2010, the psychological blow that fired him up. Ochoa's journey with Mexico started with a psychological shock that could have made him hate football and retire from international duty very early. At the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, Ochoa was dominating with his club, and the entire press and public were certain he'd be the starting goalkeeper at the tournament. But coach Javier Aguirre made a bizarre decision and dropped Ochoa, starting instead a goalkeeper named Oscar Perez. Not only was Perez 37 years old, he was only 172 centimeters tall.
That decision planted deep resentment in Ochoa and a burning desire to prove himself. That rage kept building inside him until we reached 2014, where, by the way, before the Brazil World Cup, Mexico was almost split in two, like a civil war, between Ochoa supporters and fans of another strong goalkeeper, Jesus Corona. Coach Miguel Herrera was torn for ages, but this time, the choice finally fell on Ochoa. He played in 2014, had the tournament we described, the whole world applauded him, and afterward, Spanish club Malaga decided to sign him. Naturally, a national hero who just carried his country on his back should be the undisputed star, but the scenario repeated itself. The coach there decided to bench Ochoa in favor of Cameroonian goalkeeper Carlos Kameni, not for 1 or 2 matches, but for 2 full years. Ochoa played fewer league matches than you can count on one hand. That blow after the glory of 2014 was brutal, but instead of breaking him, it only filled his tank of anger further, waiting for the moment he'd prove everyone who doubted him wrong. 2018, 9 saves against Germany. That moment came on a golden platter at the 2018 World Cup in Russia. Mexico was drawn in a group with Germany, the reigning champions, the machine that had just crushed Brazil 7-1 in the previous tournament. Everyone expected a goal fest. But Ochoa decided to go crazy in that match. He made 9 miraculous saves, 9 certain goals denied. One of them was a Toni Kroos rocket heading perfectly into the top corner. If it were replayed 100 times, it would go in 99% of them. Except this time, Ochoa palmed it away with breathtaking elegance. Kroos himself looked to the sky, laughing in disbelief. The match ended 1-0 to Mexico, and it was the beginning of Germany's collapse as they were eliminated in the group stage in one of the biggest shocks in World Cup history.
Ochoa left that tournament as the goalkeeper with the most saves, 25 stops, though in a quirky detail, he still went out in the round of 16. 2022, the brain takes over. His excellence wasn't just instinct and athleticism. We need to look at the newer version of Ochoa at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. Ochoa was over 37 years old. The elasticity of a 20-year-old was obviously gone, but now his mind took over. Mexico faced Poland, and a penalty was awarded to Robert Lewandowski, one of the best strikers of his generation who rarely misses from the spot. Lewandowski's technique is refined. He slows his approach before shooting to watch which way the goalkeeper commits, then places the ball in the opposite corner. But Ochoa hadn't left it to luck or chance. Before the match, he asked the team's performance analysts to compile data and analysis on Lewandowski's last 30 penalties, studying his body movements and preferred corners. When the moment came, Ochoa made a deliberate fake with his body, throwing his weight toward the left to suggest he'd already decided. Lewandowski took the bait and shot right, only to find Ochoa flying across and saving it brilliantly. Data science and analytics outdueled Lewandowski's experience. Ochoa proved to the world he wasn't just a flashy goalkeeper relying on acrobatics. He was a man who studied and evolved to remain a nightmare for every striker at the World Cup.
After all the chaos, the contradictions, and the clashing statistics, if we slow down and look at Ochoa's career calmly, we discover that this man left behind something far more important than football statistics. He left a popular legacy and human details etched into memory that can never be forgotten. Throughout his entire career, he never cut his hair or removed his headband. That wasn't just a style choice or attention-seeking. It was an identity, the logo that reassures Mexicans. Despite becoming a millionaire with investments in major companies, his family to this day still runs a simple bakery in Mexico City called Tortas Toño. During every World Cup, with every Ochoa brilliance, that bakery distributes free food to people in the street. This man isn't just a footballer to them. He's the son of the neighborhood, who, no matter how much he traveled and suffered in the streets of Europe, always comes back to sit on the throne of their hearts. When he decided to return to Mexico in 2019 and play for Club America, the airport was literally shut down. A reception fit for kings and presidents. Police had to intervene to get him through the thousands who came to welcome back Saint Memo. He went on to win Best Goalkeeper of the Season in Mexico in 2020. But the Saint still wasn't done fighting. At 37 years old, at a time when any player would be thinking about retirement or heading to leagues that pay handsomely, he decided to pull off one last miracle. He packed his bags and went to Italy, to Salernitana, a club racing toward relegation, for a salary that was basically peanuts. The start was catastrophic. He conceded 8 goals against Atalanta, and people said he was clinically finished. But as always, Ochoa loves the challenge. Weeks later, he made 10 saves against Inter Milan and became the beloved of the fans in the city of Salerno.
Yet, like any great dramatic story, and despite all of this, Ochoa felt that curse never letting go of him. The curse of the 5th match. This man participated in 5 World Cups, and every single time gave the impossible to carry his country. And every single time, Mexico hit a wall in the round of 16 and went home. He never once played a quarterfinal match. Despite winning the Gold Cup 6 times, the most recently just last year, Ochoa feels his picture is missing one piece. The 2026 World Cup will be held in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Ochoa will be 41 years old. The tournament will be played on his home turf, in front of his people, close to the smell of his family's bakery. Will he defy time and stand between the 3 posts for one last dance? To break the eternal curse? Or will this World Cup coma be longer than he can wake up from? In the end, Ochoa may not be among the greatest goalkeepers in history, and he may have been a bargain for European clubs. But what's certain is that he's the goalkeeper who made the entire world, every 4 years, care about something different. Care about a goalkeeper who is the hope and soul of an entire nation, and wonder, does he have 5 fingers or 6?